Hello, and welcome to ZBrush Live, the Pixologic stream. And today we are going to do kind of a one-off. We're not going to do the normal thing that we were working on last time. We'll continue that next Friday. So just another thing to note here is that next month I'm going to be streaming next Friday, a Friday off, and then a Friday after. So there's going to be 2 consecutive ones. So if you're just if you tune in to all of these, make sure you tune in. I think it's November 5th. Okay. And hey, Strawberry King, how's it going? Glad you could join us. All right. And So anyway, let's take care of this bit of business real quick. If you are watching this video afterwards on any of the 3 different services, on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, sorry Meta, I guess IOI was taken, so I guess they're calling it Meta. Anyway, so if you're watching on any one of these things, first of all, let me know that you can hear me. And you can see the video, right? So if you could let me know that, that would be awesome. Just type it in the chat. And then if you are watching this after the fact on one of the channels, you can subscribe to see future episodes. And you can always leave a comment. If you have any comments, we look through those every once in a while. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Okay, good. YouTube, we're good. Thank you, Christopher. And so leave a comment if after the fact. You can always ask questions during this thing. And if you have questions afterwards, you can always leave it in the comments, and folks from Pixologic will respond. Okay, so without further ado, let's go on and get to what we're working on. So this is just a sketch I worked on a little bit earlier, kind of, and this is what we're going to be doing today, something kind of like this. Since it's Halloween, I thought it'd be a good idea to do some sort of a monster or a creature, and just kind of do something one-off from the continuing kind of serialized streaming that I do. So this is just I'll just kind of spend a little bit of time on this, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So this is just, I'll go ahead and hide the poly paint. It's just like a monster basically, and its face kind of shrinks in like this, maybe a little bit more. So it's just really dark, and then it just pops down, like it rotates down out of its head, kind of like a goblin shark or something like that, where the face appears. Right, so I just was playing around again, practicing a little bit for today, and just kind of having fun. Had a little bit of time to do it, so I did. So just before I go ahead and hide this, I'll go ahead and bring out the kind of the model underneath. This took me about maybe 45 minutes or so to do, so pretty quick little sculpt, and we're going to be doing something similar to this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, delete all. No, I don't want to save it. And I was kind of working on something else here. I'm going to delete that one too. And let's see, this was the skin from it. Delete that. Let's just start with something kind of completely fresh. Now, one thing I'm loading in here is Nick Zuccarello's model right here. And I didn't realize he had hair. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. Let's see here. I don't really need the body. I'm going to get rid of that. And I don't. I guess I don't need the body. I might use the skull right here, and I also might use the teeth. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. And yeah, these teeth will work. I might use the mouth bag too, so let's just keep these. And I might use the skull as well, so I'll keep that also. And I've got a kind of a light in the back that's green. That's a bit distracting, so let me go ahead and turn that off. And so we can just kind of have the one light. That's good. And amazingly enough, here, turned off. Okay, here we go. And why am I just turning it on again? Here we go. Let's just tap it once. All right. And other than that, let's see. What to start with? So I've got a lot of different options of things to start with. So I guess you guys can hear me on YouTube. Anybody on Twitch can hear me? We got quite a few people on, so if anybody on Twitch can hear me, please type it in the chat. I'd appreciate it. And also on Facebook. So if you guys can hear me, let me know. And then I can get going. All right, so Twitch is good. Thank you, Raytoon. Hello, welcome to have you on here. And I guess, let's see. Somebody from Facebook will eventually let us know. There's a little bit of a delay, I think, in getting to Facebook. So one way of starting when I'm making a creature is just to go to the projects here and go to Zizu. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and copy this so I can paste it later. I'm going to copy this tool because this is a project, and I guess I could load the tools from project, but I'm just going to do it this way. Oh, that's not what I want. There's some interesting ones here, though. How about this dragon? Let's see what that looks like. Over here. And what does the adaptive skin look like? That's okay. And let's see if there's something else. Zizu is really good. It's got a lot of really interesting creatures in here. So let's see, it's got a Chihuahua, a cat, Brontosaurus. Let's see what a Brontosaurus will look like. No, we're not going to do that. How about a duck? Now, again, this doesn't really matter because whatever... all right, Iron Man, thank you. All right, so, I mean, it's not going to end up like this. This is just something I'll be starting with, so I'm just kind of, right now, just looking at something that would be interesting. How about, what's this? A gorilla. Let's see what a gorilla would look like. Yeah, I don't want something this kind of bulky. So let's continue to look. There's a hyena. There's a manatee, llama. What's a llama look like? Maybe we'll start with a llama. All right. Yeah, this has got some interesting elements. Why not? Let's go ahead and start with the llama. I'm going to turn perspective off. Now, I'm just going to go into Z-sphere mode here. Right, and just by holding Alt, I'm going to go ahead and delete some of the things I don't need. So I don't think I'm going to need, yeah, this is all good. And then let's just go ahead and go to rotate and rotate this up. I want something that's going to be standing upright. I guess this is like the bottom part. And these are the arms, legs. Let's bring those down like so. I'm just basically going to create some sort of a armature that I can start working on. And I don't know if I need this tail. I'm just going to get rid of it. So again, Alt to just, in draw mode, just go ahead and get rid of these pieces. I don't need them. Maybe keep that. And again, this is just, you know, I'm just kind of creating some sort of a starting point for the body of a monster. Or creature or something kind of costume, Halloween costumey. Let's see, something like that. Maybe something like this. I think I lost the eyes in there somewhere. That looks good. And since I've got symmetry on, I can always add as well. So I'm going to add something here in the back, maybe like this. And just kind of find some sort of beginning shape to start from. Again, I'm not being too precious about this, just something really quick. And let's get rid of some of these arms are way too long. Maybe something like this. And I just need an elbow. I don't need that many different appendages. Something maybe like this. And while we're at it, let's kind of figure out maybe some sort of an interesting pose for this thing. Kind of a looming, lurching type of a pose for it. And I'm just going to delete these from here. Wasn't a good placement for them. And scale this up, move it along. So Z-spheres are really kind of nice for this type of thing where you basically just kind of can create some sort of a starting point. Again, doesn't really matter because you can always kind of add or delete to it later on. But yeah, the legs are looking really funky. All right, let's bring these out like this. And let's just kind of agree that this is a good starting point. So now I just want to go ahead and go to adaptive skin. So A brings that up. And in the menu, I'm going to make some adjustments here. Let's go ahead and Dynamesh is at 0. Density is at 1. Let's keep it at the lowest density possible. And let's make that adaptive skin. So now we've got the Z-sphere model, and then we've got the adaptive skin, and now I'm on the skin. This is what the topology looks like. And I'm just right off the bat going to go ahead and Dynamesh this thing. At the lowest possible subdivision level, that's good. And also, this has polygroups on it. I don't really care about the polygroups, so I'm just going to go ahead and group it as one polygroup. And I'm going to turn Sculptris mode on here and go to something like clay tubes. And let's turn polyframe off and start trying to get a shape out of this that is a little bit more interesting. I guess I should turn back face mask on, or actually just inflate those might probably be a better choice here. Let's inflate up those legs. So again, I'm just really kind of demolishing what I started with. Again, I could have just basically pulled and pushed to get something like this. Pretty soon the llama is going to disappear and I'm going to be left with something a little bit different. So here I'm just using the inflate brush to get some sort of a lurking shape on here. Back to clay tubes and just play around here just to kind of get some sort of an interesting type of silhouette. Let's go to move brush, start moving things around. I'm going to obliterate these arms completely. And as you can see here, I've obliterated most of what I started with, but that's fine. And Sculptris mode is really good for that because it just allows you to go ahead and come up with something interesting. So here we go. And I do have reference, by the way. I should bring that over so you guys can see. So I have some stuff from this amazing artist, Ben Conlin, has some really good stuff. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. Ben Conlin, of course, Giger. You always should have stuff from Giger whenever you're doing creatures. And just some random stuff I've found over the on the web. So I'm just going to go ahead and maybe kind of liking this type of body, but humanoid type of body, but maybe more creature-like, maybe something like that. All right. So, now that I have my reference, I'm going to be a little bit more driven by something interesting. So I'm just going to get rid of that beak, maybe move this up and over. So here I'm just basically working on some sort of a silhouette for him. And I can always go to snake hook here and pull out some arms, maybe like that. And then so I think also, since I only have 2 hours, I'm going to try and finish this thing as much as I can today. I'm going to go ahead and just do the upper part of the body. So a little bit pointless to start with the llama, but it was just a starting point and it could have led me in a better direction. But I'm just going to go ahead and just try to find some sort of body here. Where am I from? Okay, seen any good movies lately? I saw Dune. That was really amazing. Yeah, Dune was pretty good. Wow. What a great way to kind of bring that franchise to life. Denis Villeneuve for the win. Let's see, what else? Yeah, I guess that's the only thing people are asking me about movies. I also saw the James Bond movie. I won't spoil it for you guys, but I've been a big fan of the franchise since I was a kid, so that was fun to see. Fun to kind of go to the movies again after the lockdown. It's kind of weird to be doing things that we normally did. All right. I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm really frustrated with this. So just to kind of let you guys know, this happens all the time where sometimes you go down a route, and if you are not happy with that route, you can always kind of splash it and start with something new. So I think I'm just going to start with a humanoid character here, make my life a little bit easier. All right, what's going on here? And if somebody says nice way to start as I'm doing a completely different change. All right, I think, I don't know what's going on here, but whoa, well, that's not good. All right, here we go. That's not what I wanted. So I think we'll be okay. Let me just cancel out of this. I think ZBrush is still there. There we go. Let me do this one more time. I think I clicked on the wrong folder here. All right, we're having monsters interfere with our start. So let's go ahead and go into our how about our starters and mail topo. Let's bring this guy in. V2 open. Yeah, unfortunately the llama didn't work out, but what I think I'm going to use is I'm going to use the version of this that I have that does not have a face. So I'm going to do that, and we're not going to have a helmet for him, so I'm going to delete the helmet. We're not going to have hair. We might have eyeballs, and I might leave the planes just for now, but here we go. I'm just going to start out with something like this, just because it's better to just start with something that's more of a humanoid character, since that's what I'm going for. And here I'm going to go ahead and turn Sculptris mode off and just start seeing what I can do with the topology that's already there. I mean, you know, since this is has a very specific humanoid topology, I might at some point run out of things to do with it. And I do have subdivision levels. I'm going to go ahead and delete the higher subdivision levels, because I'm not going to really use this as a humanoid character, so I don't really need all the subdivision levels that give me humanoid characteristics. All right, so here I'm just bulking him up, kind of staying with true to the reference that I have. I'm going to make him a little bit emaciated over here. Keep those hip bones, maybe this a little bit more emaciated. Make the arms a little bit thinner. And let's go ahead and go to the move brush and figure out some sort of an interesting look for his head. Now, my instinct, amazingly enough, is to always kind of create the Giger alien kind of haste, like this kind of thing, where, you know, pull it like this and do that in the back. And I'm going to try and stay away from it this time. I'm going to do my best not to have a Giger-esque kind of looking head. I'm going to try and, there it is again. It's really hard not to do it. So I'm just going to keep it more humanoid, maybe kind of go up vertically like this. And just maybe do something more like that. It's a big testament to an artist when his work is so influential that you basically are having a hard time fighting it when you're working, right? So, I mean, he's so good. His stuff is so kind of iconic that any creature designer is always kind of trying to fight that look to come up with something more original. But I'm going to move my reference over to my other monitor here so I can see it better. All right, so let's say let's kind of create some sort of a big chest piece like this. And let's kind of keep the legs kind of more humanoid. Arms are good. And I think, you know, I'm getting to a point. Let's see what the topology is looking like. It's looking okay. And I'm going to keep the polygroups for now. I probably will get rid of them later on. But let's say, you know, it's going to be something like this. And maybe this part right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Maybe, let's see, is this a separate polygroup? Yep, it is. Good. So maybe I'm just going to go ahead and tear off this polygroup. So I'm just going to duplicate this model and tear off this polygroup. Delete hidden. Bring this guy back, and then with this part, maybe this is going to be an augmented part, and maybe this can go like this. Maybe kind of like a bishop or something like that. All right, Dune's coming to HBO Max here tomorrow. Really good. Yeah. I haven't seen it in the theater yet. I'm going soon. I saw it on HBO Max here, and it was phenomenal. Such a good show. Very well done. And I guess they greenlit part 2 and 3, so it's going to be a trilogy. So that's kind of neat too. All right, so that's kind of looking interesting. Maybe add another edge loop over here. Balance the geometry out a bit. All right, so I can get a little bit more definition and distribute these polygons out. Now there's a lot of artists that are not topology driven. Most of them profess that it hinders their work, and I call big BS on that. I think they just don't want to learn it, and which is fine. You know, I mean, they do great work, so if it works for them, it works for them. But for me, topology is always important because I feel like you're either fighting it or it's working for you, and I'd like it working for me. And to understand that, I focus on topology. Kind of made it part of my work in life to be good at topology, and also I want to at some point work on either a book or some sort of tutorial that talks a lot about topology and why it's important, and get people to learn it. But I have a feeling that people who are interested already know a lot about it, and people who are not interested are never going to put in the time. So maybe the younger generations will. And also, who knows, by the time those younger generations get to this point, maybe topology will not be important. All right. So yeah, Dune was good. James Bond was good. I saw The Last Duel also. So Ridley Scott movie. And that was kind of okay. All right, so that's good. Now I'm going to use that same method I used before to get a better idea of what I'm doing here. Now I did add spans this way, but I didn't add spans in the other direction. So here I'm going to do an interesting trick, which is going to get rid of the UVs, but I don't really need the UVs for this. Let's see if I can stretch just topology to fit that one. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this model, and I'm going to try and use project all to see if I can get this to project up. Okay, so let's do a quick save real quick before then, just for kicks, so we don't have, if anything happens, we don't have to start over, because I've got something good going on here. Okay, and then I'm just going to go to project and project all, and let's see what that gave us. So it gave us some of it. I can just move these up, project all again. All right, that's not bad. And let's project all again. All right, yeah, I guess I can do okay with this topology after all. All right, so I've got this going on, and that's working okay. So I don't really need that other part that I made. So, I mean, if we want to see kind of the difference between the two, I can just turn transparency off and see what the difference is. And honestly, it's kind of has the same silhouette, so I don't really need this other part. And I will get rid of it. Delete, okay. Ooh, some spooky eyes in there. That's kind of cool. Let's bring them out. Oh, before I forget, let's paste that tool. Hopefully it's still there. It is, good. All right, so I've got that skull. Let me bring those in. So I'm going to copy that skull and bring it in to here, paste. So just use this to do it. Stay menu. Where are you? Control anyway. All right, and just let's move this skull into place here. Skull's always good to create something spooky. Like so. I guess the skull had teeth and I didn't bring the teeth in. Oh well. I have these teeth. Maybe these teeth will work. Copy these and go into here and paste. All right, and let's move these. So whenever I'm pasting these things, it's putting it. Let's hide the human for now. Let's go to the skull. Here's this. And let's put the teeth kind of where we want it to go. I don't know if I need the mouth bag. I'm going to get rid of it. So let me go to solo here. D. And oops, let me go to select here. And maybe not make this brush so big. All right, so I'm getting rid of all these other parts because I just need the teeth. Wow, he's got a full-on everything too. All right, let's bring this back. And he's got a tongue in there. Maybe we'll keep the tongue. Why not? Maybe we can do something with it. All right, that's good. Delete hidden. And can I? Oh, Smash has layers. I wonder what the layers do. Let's see. Layers. There's one layer. Oh, he's got it so the mouth opens. All right, let's find a good kind of opening for it. How about there? All right, now let's bake these layers, and I got to do this crap one more time, which is fine. Maybe I turn symmetry on. No, symmetry is on. All right. I do have a set of teeth somewhere. But I'm going to use these ones just because they're available to you as well. And I like the fact that these are all different polygroups, which is really nice. Rainbow teeth going on here. All right, delete hidden, gone. All right, so now we got the skull, we got teeth, and we got our model. So let's go ahead and continue. You guys, did you all watch the ZBrush Summit? How many people here were watched the summit live? Let's see. That many people. Wow. Come on, guys. All right. Oh, it's looking pretty creepy, like right there. All right. So let me make the skull and the teeth a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and mask the body here. Just go back to normal mask. I'm going to switch to my other pen here. Mask pen. Skip this until next time. And what I'm going to do here is make this. Let's turn pizza boxes on. And let's see if this works. Just going to make the skull a little bit bigger. And I'm going to move it down to here like so. That looks good. Okay. It's already starting to look very Halloween-y. Oh, I don't know if that's a word. All right, let's just move this down here and kind of get some sort of a skull-looking thing underneath the body. All right, Strawberry King, you saw some of it. By the way, it's all taped. You can watch it. I kind of enjoyed watching it live. Myself, that's kind of one of the conventions or kind of get-togethers that I really enjoy. I loved going to them in person. Luckily, I live in LA. I can do that. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic this year, they did it online again, which also is kind of cool. So yeah, the Sculpt Off and all 3 days are taped, so you can watch them. If you go to Pixologic's YouTube channel, probably on Twitch as well, you can go ahead and watch them after the fact. And there were some really, really good things in there. I mean, you know, I always learn a lot from these. And they're always impressive people showing impressive stuff. And this year was no different. Okay, so that's looking good. I kind of want a little bit of a longer neck. So I'm just going to go ahead and mask the neck area here. I'm just going to mask the head like so. And just push that body down a bit. Ooh, maybe under the chin too. Right, and notice I'm working in very low poly mode right now. Not really. Pizza boxes are still on too. Okay, so I'm working in low polygon mode. So I don't really. I'm not really, you know, going in and doing any detailed kind of sculpting. Actually, I'm not going to use these planes. I'm going to delete them. So the floor snaps to the bottom of the guy. All right, so there he is. And again, the scary thing, the teeth and everything are always coming through, which is kind of cool. Keeping with the theme going on. The vocalist from Ghost. The vocalist from Ghost. I don't know what that is. Let me see. What is the vocalist from Ghost? All right. By the way, just to let you guys know, I posted the thing I was working on Instagram today. If you guys go to my Instagram, I'm trying to get to 2,000 followers, and it keeps kind of dancing around this. So if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I appreciate it if you did, so I can get up to... maybe I lost some people because I posted the scary thing. Sometimes people just cannot handle scary things. All right, so I got new likes, and I'm at 1935. Yeah, I'd like to get this up to 2,000. I'm kind of really close, so I just need like 70 or 65 more people to do it. But anyway, the thing we were going to look for here was... what is it? Vocalist Ghost. All right, let's see what that is. Oh, yeah. Is this a movie? Tobias Forge. Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know about this. Yeah. Okay, I guess this is a musician. Yeah. I mean, there definitely is some ideas here. He's got like the bishop hat and the skeleton, so good call on that. What's my Instagram username? It's at Kermaco, at Kermaco, right there. Well, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's just Kermaco and the @ sign. So yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean that's kind of good that you you noticed that. You know, the kind of the different aspects that I had, the kind of the bishop kind of hat looking thing and the skull is a good kind of call out to that look that he's got. And so just because of that, I'm actually going to go ahead and go a little bit different, a different way. Maybe I'll make this a little bit more like that. How about that? So a quick poll here of you guys that are watching. So there's two kind of trains of thought. One train of thought is that everything's been done. So everything at one way or another has been already done. So there's no new design that you can come up with. Everything is derivative, everything's been done. And another kind of philosophy or train of thought is that that's not the case. So that there's always new stuff being made, and derivative stuff is just, you know, people not being original. All right. Yeah. Amlikar Fong. Yeah, I know. Nobody thinks I can do organic stuff, but I can. There's this movie that I was watching a while back where there was this guy. I guess he was like some sort of a expert in rifles or whatever, but then he was really a good gunfighter too, and people were surprised. And he's like, yeah, I'm a good gunfighter too, but I just never used pistols. I always used rifles. So yeah, I do organic. I love organic. I mean, I mostly do hard surface because I love hard surface, but I do organic as well. So again, notice here that I'm spending, how long are we in? We're in about half an hour, 40 minutes. And I'm already, you can see that I'm just staying really low res because all I want to do is get like some really kind of compelling silhouette going here. And once I got that, then adding the detail is the easy part. But getting that compelling kind of model is the best part. Okay, so now I'm just going to make this little guy a little bit more creepy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mask out. Let me go to mask lasso here. And mask out his shoulders like that. And I'm going to go ahead and elongate his arms because that automatically makes something creepy. Like so. Maybe I should start it from here. How about that? And the thing is, I didn't want it to get fat, so let me just do this. So what I'm doing is I'm holding Alt down and then clicking on this to make the arms longer. And let me make them a little bit thinner, but longer, but thinner. Longer, but thinner. Oh, what happened this way? All right, let's just bring it down. Okay, so his arms are a little bit longer, like so. Let me just push them out a bit more. That's good. And I'm going to do the same thing with the legs. So I'm just going to mask out the legs like so. And the topology is still kind of holding together. Maybe it's getting elongated just a little bit more than I like it to be, but I can always re-zero mesh it. I've got the polygroups and just keep the polygroups. Okay, so I'm kind of liking this a lot. And then I don't want to make the torso any longer, but again, I kind of want to keep that emaciated look over here. Maybe bring down his hip bones just a tad, like that. Okay, and then let's kind of make the legs a bit smaller too. So all I'm doing right now is using clay tubes, which, you know, I usually use on kind of a denser model, but I'm just using that on this low poly version of this model. All right, and then let's kind of give him some creepy kind of feet. Let's use the move brush. Okay, so he's going to be that tall. He's going to need some feet to kind of support him. So let's kind of just make his feet a little bit bigger like so, and let's bring out those knees just a little bit, and we're getting kind of to a good place. All right, so let's look at the topology and see if there's a lot of stretching. It looks like it's kind of mostly okay. What I want to get is these kind of square as possible looking polygons. And so I still haven't got, I think I still have UVs, although they're probably stretched out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to re-UV this. So if I look at the UVs now, let's go to UV map and Morph UV. This is what the UVs look like, which is good, but the proportions here are more for what the human looked like before. So I'm going to go back to this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to UV Master over here, and I'm going to unwrap it. I'm going to keep the polygroups, keep Symmetry on, and re-unwrap the model. So now the reason why I did that, and maybe I should have, let me undo that, and I can kind of explain this if you guys don't get it. And hide the polygroups. So now if I add a texture, and I'll go ahead and add this UV texture over here. Not that one. Where are you? Here we go, that one. So now you can see that, I mean, there is some stretching over here, but if I go ahead and unwrap it again, and keep that, I'll get a little bit better, kind of squarish, or the pattern kind of sits better on it. And I don't really care that their seams are kind of in wonky places. I mean, I could always kind of fine tune that more, but I think I'm okay with what this produced. So turn texture off. All right, so now I kind of have the basics of what I want to start with. And let me go back to clay tubes here. I need to adjust a little bit of work here on the back. I didn't notice that this is scrunched up quite a bit. So I'll just kind of add that scapula back there and add a little bit of a menacing hutch. Bring this forward a bit more like this, maybe not so much. All right, so I'm going to just basically start with this, and now what I'm going to do is go ahead and subdivide this a few times. So divide, divide, divide. Let's go to 5 subdivision levels. Now notice that it kind of smooths it out, so that's not really going to work. I'm going to turn smooth off, divide it a few times, just kind of crunchy like this, and then subdivide it this way. I do get a little bit of polygons here, but if I go ahead and maybe hit it with polish by features, I can maybe get rid of some of that kind of blocky look. Right, so it's doing its thing. Good time to take a tea break. And kind of created a... Right, let's do that. Okay. And again, I can go in and polish it further, but I'm just going to kind of leave this, and maybe I can use some of this later on. So now I'm just going to use that same technique I've been using, where I'm just going to go to the paintbrush. I guess I could just pick it from here, paint, and I'm going to use direct rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead and choose some alphas, but I haven't loaded the alphas, but I've got a bunch of these textures loaded in. And these are basically x-rays of things that I've kind of collected over time. And I'm going to add a couple more here. From over here, which are some interesting images that I stumbled onto, and I'll show them to you in a minute as soon as I load them. There's just 2 of them. And there are these ones right here, which basically are like text, right? So it's just, I think somebody must have sculpted these in ZBrush, right? So I unfortunately don't know who the artist is. If anybody does know, put it in the comments, and I will definitely credit the source. So anyway, what I'm going to do here is just go to those textures, and let's start out with something, maybe, let's see, what's a good one? Something more structural. And again, these are just stuff I found over online that I've modified. So let's start with maybe this one right here. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw that out. And again, I'm just looking for some interesting looking shapes on here. Like so. Oh, all right. When do I recommend to sculpt with Sculptris Pro mode on? I think that if you are struggling with the topology that's there, right now I'm kind of going with something that already has good topology, but if you're struggling with something that has topology that's not letting you do what you want to do, that would be a good kind of time to just switch to Sculptris Pro, because you can add detail in certain areas based on what you want versus what the topology will restrict you of. So for example here, I don't really care because I've got, I started with a model that had a decent topology, so I don't care. But before, when I was working on the llama, and let me see if I still have it, when I was working on this guy, right, so I don't really have any underlying topology that I'm going to use. So that's why I basically switched to the Sculptris Pro brush, and now I'm just using clay tubes to kind of demolish what's there. Another thing that's nice about Sculptris Pro is, like, if I want to get rid of things, it does allow you to do that. So here, if I just want to get rid of the arms, I can just put this the brush size to be really big. And then notice I can just kind of get rid of certain things and bring certain things back. Of course, I probably would have masked this part out, and then I can just get rid of whatever's underneath, maybe give it a harsher mask. Like so, and then just make the brush size smaller. And now notice I'm just getting rid of that arm, and then just bring this back and then just start sculpting on it. So Sculptris Pro is really, really useful for that. And also with Sculptris Pro, remember that it's dependent on your brush size. So if you make your brush size bigger, right, it's going to give you bigger polygons. And if you make it smaller, it's going to give you smaller polygons. And that could be a pain in the butt sometimes, because sometimes you want to have a smaller size brush, but not have have a big brush but not have big polygons, or have a small brush and not have small polygons. So with that, if you're kind of hitting that, what you can do is go into the brushes settings. So here, let me just go to the brush menu here. Where are you, brush menu? There you are. And scroll down to whatever brush you're using. So here I'm using clay tubes, and go down to Sculptris Pro. And notice here that use global is on, so you can turn that off. And enable basically is the same thing as this. So if you click enable off, notice that that turns off too. So that's the same exact thing. Global basically will use the global stuff, and then adaptive size and combined, right? So you can change these. So if I say I don't want adaptive size, then basically, now notice that I've got a really small brush, but I've got really big polygons, right? And so I can choose that subdivide size to be smaller. So now I've got smaller polygons, or I can choose that to be bigger, and I've got bigger polygons, right? So you can actually choose what size your polygons are going to be when you are sculpting, right? So you can kind of, now notice whatever I change my brush size to, like I could choose a really big brush, or a really small brush, it doesn't matter. It's still going to give me the same. And I guess maybe this is more obvious if I have this turned on. So as whatever size my brush is, it's going to give me the same density of polygons, right? So yeah, Sculptris Pro mode is really, really useful. It's I like it a lot. And I use it when I'm doing organic work. All right, let's get back to this guy right here. Let's go back to paint. That's kind of, I'm getting some interesting ideas from this pattern, but let's go ahead and switch to one of those letters. And those give me some really cool stuff, like here. Like, look at that. Right? How cool that is. Right? So I'm just going to mask this part out because I really like it. And then just continue. Mask this part out, and maybe add that same kind of thing down the middle. Now, adding something in the middle is kind of tricky because you get those intersecting kind of diagonal lines, and you want to kind of keep that and not have that. Right, so look at how cool that looks. Right, so again, I mean, very little of whatever is underneath is showing up, and by the time I'm done, probably nothing of it will be left. I mean, look at what I'm getting here, just some amazing kind of patterns just off the bat. And I'm just using that 1 alpha. Let's get some interesting things going on the face over here. And I like the fact that that skull is underneath and you can kind of see it in transparency mode. I mean, let's see if ghost mode even makes it spookier. No, it doesn't. All right. Let's see. Artist Versa. Hey, bud. How's it going? Thanks for joining us. Amarillo. Hey, there you go. Yeah, cool. So yeah, Sculptris Pro is kind of interesting. It's really useful in certain kind of things. But also, if you have good topology underneath, sometimes you don't really need it. So, all right, let's just pick another image now. I'll pick the other one. So just between these two images, I'm getting, and I think there's a whole alphabet of these, by the way. If you look online, the guy has a whole alphabet. I just picked like 2 letters that looked interesting to me. All right, how about that? I'm getting pretty close to kind of being okay with this. All right, so if you guys are interested in this method, if you watch the previous ones, previous streams, I've kind of done this exact same thing, but more in a sci-fi type of a setting for a sci-fi suit. But you can see here, you can use that exact same method, exactly the same thing to do a monster. Right, so there's that. All right, so I think that's looking pretty good here. So what I want to do is in the timeline, I want to go back to where I started this whole process, which is UVs. Okay, goody goody, bam bam. And I should have stored the stuff then, but whatever. It's fast enough. How about right here? Oh, that's weird. It jumps from that to this. All right, I guess it does. All right, so here's kind of where this starts. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold Control and click so that remembers this state. And the other thing I'm also going to do, if I store a morph target now, it's going to ruin it, but it's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and jump to here. It doesn't really matter if I get something harsh. So now I'm just going to go to geometry or masking. Sorry, where are you? Masking and mask changed points. How about that? And go to subtool, turn off the poly paint. Did I clear the mask inadvertently? Let's try this one more time. Mask changed points. I think I've got it right here in my UI. That. All right, what is going on? Maybe I should have the poly paint on and then do it. Mask change points, and let's see if that does it. No. It does this part in the back, but not the rest of it. I wonder why. All right, I'm just going to clear the mask. Go here. All right, so we're going here where there is no. Let's just make sure we're doing this right. Okay, so there is no poly paint here. There is poly paint. Oh, did I? I did, didn't I? Oh man, no problem. We can do it again. All right, so here it is. I'm going to do this right here and move this point to here. Good thing about doing something again is it just gives you a whole new possibility. So while I'm thinking about it, let me do the other thing too, which is store a morph target. Come here, morph target. I guess I could just do it from my menu here. Store morph target, and now I've got the morph target, and I've got this point, and now I can just go into paint and do this whole thing all over again, and hopefully I'll get something just as interesting, if not more interesting. All right, let's see. Let me make sure I get your questions, folks. So it seems like, okay, I have cited this tip about the summit and was blown away by how quickly you can get. Yeah, that's right. And I'm doing it in something completely different. Orion, two things. How do you remove the toes, and how do I activate symmetry properly to work on the helmet? Sculpt. I catch another live stream. All right, so let's see if I can answer these questions. So your first question was, let me go back to that M. First question was, how do you remove toes? Well, I mean, if you want to keep the topology, you can do it in ZModeler, right? So you can just go into ZModeler and do it. That's how I remove the toes on the model. And the other person that mentioning the topology, my anatomy is good. I'm good at anatomy, but I'm nowhere near some of the anatomy masters out there. I'm always learning. I'm always getting better, but I'm definitely, I've got a long ways to go to be as good as some of the really amazing anatomy artists out there who basically do nothing but anatomy. But I think I'm dangerous enough to know if something is good anatomy or bad anatomy. Which in itself is, I think, important enough. However, That said, I usually, knowing that something is good anatomy, I bought this model from ArtStation. So I think in one of the streams I talk about who it's from, Alexander something or another. But I did some modifications to it. So I took the toes out, and I did that with, like I mentioned earlier, I did that with ZModeler. And then I just basically deleted the polygons and just basically closed off that area and added some edge loops. So this is kind of what it looks like now over here. And yeah, so that's that. And there's another, how do you pronounce okay, so activating symmetry. So with symmetry, you got to know two things, right? One of them is you got to kind of know what your symmetry is. So this is really helpful. I mean, this is one of those things where like I always wonder how I worked without it being there. And the way I did it usually is I had to bring the floor up to kind of remember and see what, that this is X, this is Z, and this is Y. But this really helps. So there's X symmetry, and then there is Y symmetry up and down, and then there's Z symmetry, which is inside and out. Now the other thing also to remember is that it's always good to have your model in the center, and the way you find out is if you bring out the floor, you can see now that he is in the center, right? In the center, he's centered in there. But if I move the model off to somewhere else, then the symmetry will work. And here, I'll just do it real quick. So let's say I'm going to turn symmetry. Do this. Turn symmetry off for a second. Now, if the model is over here, right, and I want to work in symmetry mode, you notice that it's not going to work symmetrically because the model is no longer in the center of the universe or the center of the 3D space. So for that, you have to turn on local symmetry. So this one, LSym, local symmetry, which I think is in the transform. Is it under transform? Yeah, it's under transform. Where are you? Maybe it's under, is it under stroke? It's under either, it's, actually a good way to find out is just to point at it. So local symmetry is this one right here. And if I hold control down, it's under transform. So it's under transform, I just didn't see it. And where are you? It's right here, local symmetry. And I have it right on my UI. And I think it's there on the default UI. I'm not sure, but I think it is. So, so make sure that you have local symmetry on if you are not centered in the universe. But I usually like to work centered in the universe just because that way I don't have to go to local symmetry and I can do it that way. And also remember that you have you have posable symmetry as well in ZBrush, which is another really amazing godsend feature. By the way, one of the benefits of the ZBrush Summit is that you can get ZBrush at a discount, and that's the only time they discount it, and they do a pretty good discount. So I think this time it was 20%. So if you guys are interested in getting ZBrush, the Summit is a good time to do it. But you can always subscribe too. That makes it cheaper. All right, so here I'm just kind of trying to get another kind of interesting look, and I'm getting some really cool things already. So I'm pretty happy that I lost that first work, because now I have a whole new kind of thing that I'm doing that I like. All right, so I'm just basically using that same pattern. I have it in the back too. Look at how interesting that kind of bony structure is. And I'm going to pull geometry out of this in a little bit. So it's going to look pretty compelling. Hopefully that answers you guys' questions. All right. Oh, Jesse, you're asking how to rewind this video and watch it from the beginning. You can't rewind it now because it's live, but after I'm done, so I get done at 9 p.m. I'll probably be a little bit longer today. After I get done, after 9 p.m., it'll be on YouTube and it'll be on Twitch, and you can always go back and watch what you missed. All right, let's see this like that. Look at all the cool stuff I'm getting. It's just amazing. And I'm just using this one letter. All right, let's switch to the other letter. Let's switch to X. Let's go off the center. And remember, I mean, I got rid of them, but you can always use the planes too if you want to start something outside of your... I'm really liking this area right here, so I'm just going to mask it off so I don't get rid of it. Kind of like this area over here too, and I like what's going on in the head. So I'm going to keep all that, and let's see, I kind of want to create something more interesting in the stomach area. And notice as you go out further, you get like really cool patterns. That's cool. Am I losing anything over here? No. So I'm just going to switch back. Oh, yeah, I am. I kind of like this area over here. And I kind of like this area over here. So I'm going to keep those, maybe keep this as well. All right, and let's just see what we get if we pull out this way. So now I've got a morph target, and I've got my state saved over here, so I should be able to get some geometry from this. All right, this is all very good. I still need to get something interesting over here, so there's that. All right, so let's go ahead and add a little bit more of these X-rays, and now I'm just going to dumb down my RGB intensity and see if I can get some secondary and tertiary details that will look good to add to what I've got. All right, Ryan, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, struggling with something, by the way, I should just mention that struggling with something is a good thing, right? So you should be happy if you're stuck with something and you figure it out, because it will stick to your mind better. It'll definitely stick to your mind better if you struggle with something and find a solution than if you just know how to do it and then forget afterwards. All right, so I think I've got enough going on here, maybe to start seeing what this looks like as geometry. All right, so first thing I'm going to do here is go to texture map, and I'm going to go ahead and say new from polypaint. Now that texture will be, I'll have saved that. I'm going to clone it, so I can always come back to this texture if I want to. And now let's do mask changed points, like that. And let's hide that polypaint, like that. And let's hide that texture as well. So I basically have this mask, and then I'm just going to go ahead and go to the inflate and try and inflate this out. Oops. And yeah, look at that. Within minutes, I've got a really, really cool pattern on this guy. That's good. And so let me see what happens if I go the other way. So I'm going to invert the mask. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of the mask. I have a morph target. I can do it with the morph target. And go to the morph target. There you are. And let's morph this way, or let's morph it the other way to see if we get anything interesting. I think that's good enough. All right, so now I've got some good beginnings to go with. So let's go ahead and get to sculpting. I'm just going to go ahead and choose the good old Damien standard brush, make that brush size small. And go in here and start sculpting. So now this is just good old traditional sculpting, but I've got something interesting to kind of start from. It's a good idea to turn occlusion on at this point. How cool this cowl is over here. I don't want to destroy it that much. Now, another thing I can also do, I should mention that too, something else that I also do is I go in and load these, so these textures here, these, let me find one that is It's kind of, how about this one right here, right? So I can always make an alpha with this. All right, so now I've got that alpha, and I don't want it for this brush, but I'm going to go ahead and go to this other brush, and I think this is a brush called Drag. It's basically kind of a derivative of the, excuse me, the standard brush, and it works really well with alphas. So I'm going to turn this alpha off and choose that alpha we just made, right? And I'm just going to use that alpha to add even more kind of geometric changes to what I have, right? So if like there's certain shapes that I'm seeing that are, let me bump up the intensity. Like if I'm seeing certain shapes come up, now I'm actually augmenting those shapes with something a little bit different as well, right? So here we go. I really like what's going on up here, so I'm not really going to mess with it. This looks very detailed over here, but I've got, let's see if this makes a difference here, like so. And you can always go, instead of going Z sub, you can go to Z add and just maybe add some relief. Like maybe so. Let's do that in the back as well. All right, so I'm getting some very kind of cool geegery looking things there. Looks like it's got an interesting thing happening with the buttock area. You can spend days doing this by hand, sure, why not? Or you can spend minutes and get something really cool like that. All right, so let's pick a different one of these guys. Maybe, how about this one right here and make an alpha out of it. There it is. And we can, I mean, we can leave the texture on. Why not? I don't know why I turned it off. Where are you? Now I got to find it. Which one was it? Where are you? And these are things that I kind of worked on over an afternoon, just to kind of, I just did some searches online, found some interesting X-rays, and went to town. I kind of like what's going on there. Let's see if I can augment it in any way, like so. And I'm kind of adding these details in areas where I see blank areas, and I shouldn't do that because blank areas are good. I'm going to go to H polish here and kind of maybe straighten out some of these areas, and then switch back to that other brush and see if I can add this over here, like so. And what's really cool about this is like you can, I mean, the poly paint is still there, so I can always go in here and turn that poly paint back on. And now I've got the relief as well as the poly paint. And I can mess with that poly paint too, which I'm going to do right now. Adjust colors. And let's add a tint. Let's add like a, I don't know, a grayish kind of tint to it. See what that looks like. And let's bump up that contrast. Maybe let's add a little bit more color. I want to be really subtle with color, like so. Let's see. Ooh, that's looking pretty good. All right, let's go with that. All right, let's let it auto-save, and let me take a look at the questions here. Tabasco, these are not NFTs yet. I haven't really gotten into the NFT market yet. but I'm kind of interested and intrigued by it. When I first heard about it, it was very much like controversial because of the power it uses and everything like that. But I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know how much of that is in a real thing. But I'd love to get into the NFT world. I definitely could use the money for sure. But eventually it will. Tabasco, if you would buy one, just send me your email address, so I'll keep it with me, and then when I do post it on, I'll let you know. So you can find my information. By the way, I should mention this here. If you guys want to get a hold of me, I'm really easy to get a hold of. So if you just go to kermaco.com, so all you got to just remember is Kermaco. If you remember Kermaco, Kermaco, you can go, you can see my portfolio. All my social media stuff is here. If you want to send me an email, if you want to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff is in here, right? So Kermaco. Just remember that, and you can get a hold of me. All right, so here it is. This is starting to kind of come together. There are certain areas here that I'm still getting that look from what I had before, so I want to get rid of those. I just want to make sure that nothing of that previous artist's work is really kind of showing up, just because, you know, that's his work. I mean, I'm definitely benefiting from using that as an alpha, but on the other hand, I want to make sure that there's nothing that is very descriptive of his work that shows up. Although his work, again, his work is derivative of Giger's work, so that's that. Now, the other person was asking me about this radial menu. This radial menu is not part of ZBrush. Okay, so this is part of the Wacom tablet, right? So it's not a ZBrush feature. It's a Wacom feature, and honestly, I knew about it. I used it in the past with Photoshop, but I'd forgotten about it. And I watched Pablo Munoz Gomez, his stream one of these days, and he kind of was talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that would be nice to kind of jump quickly between different brushes. So I basically adopted it. And it's always, again, watching these streams is really useful. There's some amazing people showing amazing stuff. So here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to push this in so I can get that skull out of there. So I'm just going to turn transparency off so I can just kind of show parts of that skull from underneath that kind of area. There we go. There's some scary Halloween stuff for you. How about that? I think I obliterated this a bit too much. Take a look at that. No, I don't want to go that much into it. All right, let's just do this over, starting from there. And I just want to push this in a little bit to get that skull to show. It's kind of neat because it's showing up over here too. So I'll just push this just so. Like that. That's good enough. Yeah, and that radial menu is, maybe I should use the move brush. How about that? I'm like, why is this not working? I don't know what I was saying. I kind of lost track. This is looking too good. I love it when you're working on something and it just starts to work really well. All right, so that's good. And did I keep the tongue? Please tell me I kept the tongue. I did not keep it. Oh, well. I'll just have to bring it in from somewhere. Let's see. Is it here still? All right, I'm going to do something here, which is going to be an interesting thing. Split to similar parts, always okay. And let's see if the tongue is part of, there's the teeth and there's the gum. There's a tongue in there, what the heck? let me just do this. All right, so why am I just getting one or the other? Here we go. Let's invert that. Okay, and let's hide all these teeth. Actually, I'm just going to do this way. Oh, the teeth are not there. That's why what's happening. How about you and delete hidden and copy. And let's go back to our guy over here. And paste. All right, so it's down here. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about the Wacom thing. So yeah, it's Wacom. I mean, Pablo talks about it. I'll just kind of refer you to his videos. So it's Pablo Munoz Gomez, and he streams as well. And he's also got his classes and everything like that. Really awesome guy. And he's also got something else that I probably will use at some point in this, which is he's got these really cool Beksinski and Giger inspired brushes. So you can get those as well. Let's turn the symmetry on this. Turn transparency off. I don't want this to be too much like the spawn thing, so I want the tongue to be there, but not so kind of predominantly big and long. Well, let's kind of leave that there for now. I might change my mind later. And of course, why not make it forked? Is this got subdivision levels on it? Let me see. Oh, it doesn't. All right, so what if I do this to it? Here we go. Give it a nice forked tongue. All right, so wow, there's a lot of questions. Let me just look at those. Yeah, direct message me, Tabasco. Sure thing. Get a hold of me. I will definitely let you know when I have this thing NFT'd. Okay, is this a free drawing or are you referencing an image? I'm referencing some images. So I have a reference sheet over here. I always have a reference sheet. So basically, these are just images I found on the web. Like I don't know, this thing, the skull kind of looked cool. I really liked kind of this action here on this one. Some drawings. I think this is from Harry Potter. And then, you know, this artist that I follow, Ben Conlon, has some really amazing stuff. So I put some of his images on there, put some Giger images. But yeah, I always work off of reference, always. And right now I'm just kind of going off of this one quite a bit. I really like what's going on with this model right here. Okay, so that's that. Okay. Luis, thank you very much. Viva Brazil. Right, and I don't know if that's the thing that you say. I guess I've watched enough soccer to know Brazil's really amazing in soccer. Yeah, I do. Amarillo, I do spend time preparing the. I do spend time preparing the alphas, absolutely, and I don't do that before I do the project. I just do that sometimes where, you know, like that these X-rays that I showed you. What I did was I think I watched Neville Page has a really good Gnomon workshop. And he used he said he used a animal X-ray, and I thought that was a really cool idea. And I said, oh man, you know, I'm probably going to be asked to do a creature at some point, or I'm going to want to do a creature. So why don't I preempt? And instead of doing the research then, do the research now. So I just basically spent I don't know, a few hours, maybe an afternoon or so, and just went through the internet and found some really interesting animal x-rays, and put them in Photoshop and modified them to work on to work with what I to kind of create a small library. And don't you know it, now I wanted to do a creature, so I just referenced those. So sometimes it's good to just if you find yourself like not being productive, or find yourself in a situation where you're looking for something to do, if you're sculpting and your sculpture isn't looking good, or you're kind of frustrated with some of the things that you're doing, it's always good to kind of maybe spend that time productively instead of being frustrated and going and, I don't know, doing something else. Spend that time maybe kind of building up your library. And I've spent a lot of time building my library up over time. And it really does help, especially if you're on a project. If somebody's paying you, you don't want to spend their time looking for stuff, even though sometimes you have to. But if you do your work faster and get done faster, then you can, especially if you're freelance, you can spend that time doing other things, working on other projects, or what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the color of the tongue to something more interesting. Switch color, fill object. Maybe let's go a little bit something like this. Switch color, fill object. All right, and let's just go to black and white again. I think there's an app that basically has this thing like Photoshop where you can automatically switch it to black and white. I think that thing is pretty useful. All right, so I'm not really liking what's going on here, but that's okay. I can always augment that. Maybe push this out a bit. So starting to, once I put the tongue in there, it's going to be really hard to have this not look like Spawn. So I'm going to make the tongue a little bit smaller. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, geez. All right, I better boogie. All right, and the other thing also that's kind of not working for me is this area right here. This area looks good, but the lines kind of going, I don't want the lines to maybe, there we go, that's better. All right, so again, I can, I think I'm kind of going to turn the color off, and it's kind of hot in here. I'm going to turn the color off and maybe just kind of work a little bit sculpturally here. Go to Demon Standard and start bringing out some of these shapes. So now that I've got kind of this to go off of, it's going to be really easy for me to just spend maybe an afternoon or a little bit of time just bringing this stuff out as much as I can. Let's see, what subdivision level am I on? Let me drop down to maybe about 5 here. So notice here that I'm doing multi-resolution. I'm always sculpting, I'm going up and down in subdivision levels just because you want to sculpt in the subdivision level that your detail is in. So if you're working on primary forms, you don't want to be in subdivision level 5, for example. All right, have you ever tried sculpting yourself? You mean sculpting me? Like making a sculpture of myself, like my face? Is that what you mean? I'm sorry. And I can't really read your name because it's in blue. I'm not, I don't know if I'm going to retopo this or if it's going to be an animation model. I just kind of thought it would be a fun thing to do for Halloween, just kind of sculpt a monster. And I'll ask you guys, I mean, next time, if you guys want me to continue with this one, I can continue with this one, but I'm also working on an astronaut model, which looks pretty good. I'll bring that up towards the end and show you guys. And we can decide next time, which is going to be next Friday, by the way. My next stream is going to be next Friday. Just because these 2 months are kind of weird. So I did 3 streams in October, and I'm going to do 2 in November. So the first one's going to be on the 5th, then I'm going to not do a week, and then the Friday after I'm on again. So yeah, I'll ask you guys, at the beginning of the stream, I'll ask whether, I'll say, do you want me to continue with the monster, or do you want me to continue with the other one? Sometimes I work on these things afterwards as well, like if I find some time. I always kind of enjoy working on these models, so sometimes I work off camera as well. But I kind of try to do as much as I can on camera, just so you guys can see it, and it's also good for me to kind of have a record of me doing the work. All right, so I'll make this a little bit darker color, just because. It helps. I mean, I'll probably get some composition of this before I end today. I'll do one kind of render. Maybe I'll pop it on Instagram later on. So notice here, I'm just basically using the underlaying pattern, but I'm also making some sculptural changes on top just to go with my intended. I mean, this is not a female character, but it's but having this kind of be this way is making it so it is. But it's pretty it's an androgynous type of monster. And I can always continue to make structural changes. So here, making the hips smaller will kind of detract it from being more female. And I'm going to take this part here. All right, moving along. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? No, we're good. And we are at 32 minutes. That's always good. Another thing I want to do here is make these fingers a little bit longer. It's kind of hard to, work on fingers and not have them kind of get all wobbly. So I'm just going to do that. I like this little bit of sleeve action going on here. All right. Let's switch back to Damon Standard. If you guys look on my Instagram feed, at some point I have a picture with Damien, the guy who made Damien Cadril, the guy who made Damien Standard. And boy, is this brush just the brush. I mean, there's a lot of other brushes that are kind of cool like this over time that I've collected, but I keep going back to it just because it's such a classic. All right, so I'm going all the way around the model here and just kind of picking out interesting parts and enhancing them. So here I'm just going to push this in a bit more. H polish and flatten it like that. So here you can see I have some of that kind of gradation from the when I did the subdivision. So I'm just getting rid of those, and think this top part is prime for adding some sort of an interesting shape to it. So I'm just going to do that with an alpha. So here I'll just switch to that other brush. And let's find an interesting alpha here. Maybe, no. How about this one right here and make an alpha out of it. And let's draw that out. Maybe subtract it in. Now, I don't know why this thing is giving me a bunch of them and not just one. So I'm going to pick something else. Let's try this one. Make alpha. And let me go up in subdivision levels so I can see this better. I'm going up to 6. That looks good. That does not. All right, let's pick something else. How about this kind of mantis looking thing? And let's make an alpha out of it. And let's see if this adds some interesting aspects to this part. Now, one of the things that I'm doing here is notice that sometimes when you use these alphas, they create some really kind of sharp edges. It's always good to kind of go and smooth it down just a little bit. Not enough to lose the detail, but enough to kind of get a good. No, it's kind of ruining this look, but I kind of might use that over here. Then I don't know what happened with the chin over here. Kind of looks interesting, but it's a bit too much. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and use the H polish to bring this down a bit. Okay. Are these alphas available somewhere? They're on the internet. I mean, they're not alphas. Just do a search on X-rays and insects or animals. That's what I did, and like I said, I spent an afternoon, and I didn't use those right off the bat, like, you know, here. So here, if you just go and do, you know, animal or insect, just do animal X-ray. Okay, and you see here you go. There you are. There's a ton of them, right? So if you just go to images. There are a bunch of them on here, and I'm not using these vanilla. Like, I don't just get them and use them. I just found interesting parts, like, you know, the kind of the inside part of this fish looks interesting, and so I use that. Like maybe this part of this armadillo, I think it is. So you can see there's tons of them. So yeah, you can just go find them online. And like I said, you can just spend a little bit of time kind of picking the ones that you like and modifying them so they work for you. All right. Thank you. Yeah, it's always good to kind of have a it's always kind of good to have your own, you know, start working on your library. I tell that to my students. I tell them to start working on it while they're in school, and as they get older, you know, at some point they'll have a really good library of alphas and textures and all sorts of other goodies. All right, so I'm really happy with everything on this guy, but I want to do something with the eyes over here. So I don't really have eyes for him, and I kind of want to continue this thing in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and find another alpha, maybe this one right here. Make an alpha out of it. And oh man, always on the wrong brush. This one, this alpha, no texture. All right, so I'm, going to mask out areas I don't want to touch. Oops, I don't want to touch this area. I don't want to touch this area. Just want to work on this area right here. And maybe this is a bit too much. Reduce that Z intensity. Maybe that's too little. Somewhere in the middle. No, I don't think this is going to work. All right, let's find something else. How about this guy right here? And make alpha off. There we go. Yeah, that's exactly what we want. All right, let's yep, that's looking a little bit more interesting. But maybe it's a bit too much. Good old Control Z. All right, let me, I think instead of doing what I did before, maybe I should just mask the part that I want to change and invert the mask and go to this brush. And let's try that one more time. And there it is. I always wonder, like, what would happen if I showed this method to, like, HR Giger. Like, if I just spent an afternoon with him and just, said, look, what do you think of this? Because I think he used airbrush techniques to get the looks that he got. And boy, talk about an amazing artist. I was really devastated when he died. I wanted to meet him. I never met him. I met a lot of the people that are my heroes, but Giger I did not get to meet. All right. So speaking of Pablo, I'm going to go ahead and use, he's got, so in his Beksinski and Giger brush set, he's got some really good material matte caps too. So I'm going to go ahead and load up some of those matte caps. So material there, Beksinski. I think this one's kind of a cool one. So there, look at that. Let me bring this down a bit to there. Get a little bit more interesting cranial silhouette going here. Something like this. All right, let's go back in subdivision levels. It is, Ches. It is a gold mine. It really is. Andres, I like your little images there. That's awesome. I think that's the best Halloween emoji image that I've seen. All right, let's just kind of. So now I'm just basically tweaking this a little bit more. How are we doing on time? Oh, good. We got got 15 minutes. Looks like this alien is pregnant. It's going to give birth to a whole new brood of little aliens. All right, there it is. So this thing started out, and I mean, we kind of had a, went in the wrong direction there for a little bit too. But for a couple of hours, that's not bad to get something like this. All right, let's try some renders here. Let's see what this looks like. And to render, I bought this thing on ArtStation 2, which is this Digital Clay XYZ Essentials, which has some clay brushes that are pretty useful, and also I'm trying to get more of a silhouette here, and also has this really cool thing called cinematic render, and it's just a one-button press. So here, let's add some perspective to this and get like a, of course I can always take this into Mixamo and pose it, but right now I'm just going to go with just this pose right here, and let's see what that will look like. So let's just let it do its thing. Okay, well that didn't turn out too good. I think the reason why it didn't turn out too good is because I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to the normal render. So let me render this one more time and go to the render menu here and go to filters, and let's go to the light box, and I just want to go to the base. This is kind of the basic render. By the way, these look really good in kind of these types of renders as well. Like if you choose, I don't know, let's try this. Maybe not that one. Here we go. That one was good. Like, if you want to do NPR type of renders, look at how cool that looks. Just kind of a really, and you can use this as a render pass, of course. But the whole reason why I did this is because I wanted to reset, not reset this filter, but go to the normal filter like that. Okay, good. And let me just do one more BPR render from that. There it is. I mean, that doesn't look too bad, especially just like something right out of ZBrush. But now let me try that other cinematic, or whatever it's called, cinematic render. Let's see if this produces something better. I think what's going on here, excuse me, that's not working, is that it's blurring it too much. And I don't know what it's going off of, but I can fix that in the render menu. I think here it's turned on. Which one's the blur filter? Let's see. This one is sharpen. This one is blue. This one is blur, and it's at 100. So I think that's the thing. It's like I think the depth A and depth B are just too much. So I'm going to choose depth A to be this, and depth B to be maybe something further away. Well, it didn't work too well. Let me reset this filter. All right, well, that's kind of giving me a little bit of a better blur. And then the background here, I can get rid of that too. So if I don't want that, I think it's under light and background off. Okay, and let's just BPR it again. Okay, so I think there's like another filter, but that's kind of looking a little bit better too, like just for a ZBrush render. And like if I get closer here, I probably will get a really nice render there too. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of looking really decent right now. And I haven't even poly painted this. This is just using a straight out matte cap. And if I just go in here under render, and let's see what other filters he's got on. Render filters. Let me turn occlusion on too. This actually adds to it. I don't know if this cinematic render was done before. Like, occlusion adds a lot to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and see what other, so he's got the blur filter, and he's got, what's this one? Orton. Okay, and what's this one? Lighten, this one, replace. Let's see if I remove that one. Does it make any difference? Nope. What about this one? This one, paint. Paint's kind of adding interesting effect. I'm going to leave that there. But there's one that's kind of, is it the blue? And there's one that's adding this banding, and I don't know what that's from. It can't be the blur. Nope. Is it this one? Is it the sharpen? Can't be the sharpen either. Where are you, filter? Noise. Maybe it's noise. No, noise was kind of cool. Glow? No. Is it the Orton? It is the Orton. Okay, so Orton was kind of doing a weird thing. Let me turn that back on and see if I can mess with the settings. Here we go. There, how about that? So there you go. I mean, just, you know, just in 2 hours of work, I can get this image, which I'm probably going to post this exact image on Instagram. That looks pretty scary, pretty Halloween-y, and I've got a full character just using this workflow. So we are about 11 minutes out. Maybe I'll go a little bit later. Reminds me of Dark Souls monsters. Okay, cool. So we got a little bit of time left. If anybody has questions on anything, this would be a good time to kind of ask your last minute questions. I'm going to go ahead and do something that I always do here, which is use clip curve and flatten out the bottom of the feet a little bit. So it looks like he's pressing into the ground. And we'll let this happen in a few minutes. And this would be a good time to save it. I don't want to lose what I put into this. But yeah, this would be a good time to ask any questions that you might have. Also, this has just been pure sculpting, so I can always, and I'll do that towards the end here, is start pulling some of these shapes out to add some additional interest in the model. This leg is kind of looking really wonky. I'm going to fix that real quick. Looking at it from the front, it looked fine, but looking at it from here, it's like a weird thing happening over here, which I'll fix just by pulling this forward. Okay, so that looks much better. Maybe fix this back part a little bit too. Just so he kind of is more balanced. I'm saying he, but you know, it's an it more or less. Let's get a little bit of gesture going on here. With the knees. Okay, and I'll just bump it back up. Don't want to divide again. I just want to go up to the high subdivision level. There we go. All right, that's looking good. Now it looks like his knees are all the way down here. Let me just accentuate this a little bit more. Specify that his knees are actually somewhere in here. Okay. So now let's see about pulling some parts out. And to do that, I'm going to duplicate the model. And drop it down to the lowest subdivision level like so. And let's bring out the polyframe for him. And let's solo him out. Can probably go up one subdivision level more. Nope. Stay on here. And I'm just going to delete the higher subdivision levels because I don't need them for this one. And I don't really want to work on the head. I basically will pull some stuff out of the torso. So I'm just going to choose the torso. Oops. And delete all the other parts as well. And let's find some compelling pieces on here. I don't know what the hell happened in the back there, but that's fine. So here I'm just going to pull out this other kind of piece. And I'm going to switch back to my basic material 2 material. Just kind of back to normal sculpting, and push this in. All right, so I just basically want this to be a separate piece of its own. So I'm going to go to Solo and go to ZModeler and just delete some polygons here. Make sure I'm not adding any more edge loops. Like so. Delete poly loop. This part, delete island, get rid of this part, and let's see, let's bring this guy back, and let's say this thing kind of goes up like so. Add some interest to the silhouette. Again, I'm not really caring about the topology. I'm just trying to get some sort of an interesting type of external piece that's going to be separate from the body. Right, I think I don't need this part too, so let me delete pi loop again. And that gets rid of that part. Again, you know, working with good topology, I can do this kind of stuff easily. So delete and island. Oh, right. Get rid of this bottom part. So I'm basically just looking at this top part as its own thing, like so. And again, I don't really care about the topology of this. I just want this type of shape. Insert an edge loop over here. I can always zero mesh this, but I'm trying to see if I can rescue what I can out of that. Okay, so let's go off of Solo. And try to shape this into something interesting. Like maybe something like that. Tabasco, this is ZBrush. This is good. So here I'm just going to go in and delete. All right, so I guess I kind of messed with symmetry here. No worries, I can just mirror and weld again to get that symmetry back, and then delete single poly and start getting rid of some parts that I don't really think I need. I inadvertently added an edge loop over there, didn't want to. So I'm just basically reducing this to what I want it to be. Something like this. Maybe not have this part right here. And maybe not this part right here. Oops. Poly loop. That's gone. See if I can get rid of this one too. That's fine. And in the back, get rid of this. So here I'm just basically, you know, I mean, I could always model this stuff from scratch, but I'm just being lazy and just doing it this way. I guess I shouldn't call it lazy. I'm just being innovative and doing it this way. All right. And then here I'm just going to go ahead and turn dynamic on, turn smooth off, and add some thickness to this just to kind of see what it would look like as just a big part kind of on top of what's there. And just go and start molding this into, you know, maybe it goes into here. Like so. I don't know what happened over here. Let me just minimize all these menus. All right. All right. What game have I worked on? What game have I worked on? I don't know. You know, it's kind of funny. I've been in the kind of the software industry for a long time. Worked on a lot on some games in the 80s, believe it or not. Did some 2D work on games. Recently, I haven't worked on any games. I don't know. I guess I haven't had a... I've worked on VR projects. I've worked on advertising projects. I've almost worked on a couple of movies that never really came out. They weren't greenlit. Or they were greenlit, but they got canceled. And but yeah, I haven't worked on any games lately. If you're a game studio and you want to hire me, let me know. I work freelance mostly, but I don't mind working on a project for a little while. And if you are a director and but for some reason are watching this and you like this look, also I am currently looking for work, so let me know. If you want me to design monsters or creatures or sci-fi things or mechs or whatever the hell it is that you need for you. I'm going to turn transparency on here and do this. I think my dream was to work with Ridley Scott at some point. Would have been great. He's got some great movies in the past. But recently, I really like Denis Villeneuve's stuff. I think, you know, just talking to some of the artists that work with him, it seems like he's a really amazing director to work with. And it's good to work with art directors and people that basically know when to give you your freedom and know when to rein you in. I think that is definitely the hallmark of a good director or art director for a game. Because there's so many games that I see and I cringe at some of the stuff that is there. And sometimes it's on purpose and they just aren't doing a good job. And sometimes it's because I know they're in time crunches. So I definitely sympathize with them, but geez Louise. Like, I don't know, it's not the current one, but Call of Duty, they had a load screen. And I was just looking at the artwork on it, and there were just so many mistakes on there. And some of the skins for characters that they have, oh my God. Especially for Black Ops. It's, I think they can do better. I know they can do better. I've got some students that work for Treyarch. So hopefully they can talk some sense into their art director. I have a lot of students that work on games. I should mention that. I teach, so since my students are young and out of college and more kind of in the market, they tend to get a lot of jobs with games. I've got students that are at Riot. I've got students that are at Treyarch, as I mentioned. I've got a student working on a, and I should know the name of the game, but they're working on a really highly anticipated PS5 game, which is almost out. It's coming out very soon. I've got students at LucasArts, at ILM, working on Star Wars properties, so, you know. Let's see. do I teach? Well, right now I'm not teaching. I stopped teaching after the pandemic. But I used to teach at Otis College of Art and Design, and I've taught at Art Center. I've taught online at CG Society. And one of the other things I'm looking into right now is maybe doing an online class as well. So I don't know if I'm going to create my own kind of thing to do it, or if I'm going to kind of hang my banner with some other artist that already has a infrastructure to do it. Part of my thing is I really enjoy working in ZBrush. So I want to spend more time working in ZBrush and doing art than doing administrative stuff, which is really frustrating because I need to do the administrative stuff, or the administrative stuff needs to get done for me to kind of be more successful. But on the other hand, I am just one person. And if I spend more time on administrative stuff, then I'm spending less time working. And teaching is one of those things where I like to teach because teaching helps me get better at what I'm doing. But creating a website and and advertising and doing, kind of stuff like that, that's work that's not really going to make me a better artist. It's going to make me more comfortable in life, which I could use dearly, but it's not going to make me a better artist. And right now, I'm all about being as good as I can be, given the short time we have on this planet. And then there are people who are passionate about creating websites and creating teaching kind of websites and doing that kind of stuff. And I'd rather give them a little bit of the money and let them handle that part and do this part myself. So if you're interested in taking a class from me, also email me and let me know. Because I do have a list of people over the years that have asked for it, and I do keep that list. And if I, at some point, or when I should say, because I'm definitely going to do it, when I have an online class, I will send you an invitation and let you know. The thing also about online classes is that I got to be mindful to charge an amount that people can afford. Because I know in certain parts of the world, things are a little bit more, financially, they're a little bit more expensive than they are in the U.S. So like if I make something $1,000, somebody in the U.S. that might be a worthy investment and they might be able to pay it. But if you're somebody in another part of the world, that might be a significant amount of money that you might not be able to put together. Even though it is an investment, it might be a bit too unreachable for you. So I wonder, by the way, that's something I think about all the time too, not just because of the educational costs, but also the cost of labor. Like if I educate somebody in the part of the world where things are cheaper, that person might take a job for a lot less money than somebody in the US. And that makes it tougher for us to survive here. So I think that some of the monetary things that are going on internationally, some of the tax incentives and things like that are helping corporations maybe save money, but overall I think they're hurting the industry. They're hurting people wanting to do this stuff because, if you work really hard and you do something, but when people ask you how much you charge and you tell them how much money you need to survive, they might be like, well, I can get somebody cheaper in another country to do it, so I'm going to do that. And so what that does is it makes your life a lot more miserable. And so I think there should be some sort of a way to protect people in certain countries that are doing this stuff, because otherwise I think it's a race to the bottom. All right, so that's me going on my soapbox. But I definitely think that there are things that could be better for the artistic community overall. Because otherwise I have no incentive to make my course cheaper. I'll make it really expensive, and only people who are here can afford it, and only people who are here can take those jobs. So yeah. Let's see. Nobody's commenting on any of the stuff I just said. It's amazing how PC everybody is. That's cool. All right, so I think we are, whoa, we're about over time. So let me kind of just leave this here and do a quick render. Let's go ahead and choose Pablo's amazing material again. And I didn't even polypaint. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I didn't even polypaint this thing. I'm just going to basically use a material on it. And all these materials kind of look good. So if I choose this one, for example, that's a neat material. This one's a good one. And then, you know, kind of the best thing to do is to render this in all these different materials and then composite them together. So yeah, I'm just going to use this one for now and do a quick render. All right, wow, look at that. That's so cool. Just right out of ZBrush, nothing really, no poly paint, just a material and just out of ZBrush. And I'm getting something really kind of neat looking, you know, pretty scary. I could probably work better with that blur in the render settings, but let me do another one here. There we go. Look at that. Just, you know, 2 hours of work. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, learned something, and I just want to again do a plug. If you enjoyed this and you liked it, you can help me out by helping me get to 2,000 followers on Instagram. I'm kind of at 1935. I don't know why I keep going. I don't know if Instagram is doing this or whatever, but I want to get this to 2,000. So if you could spread the word, let your friends know or whatever, it'll be nice to go to 2,000. And I can see that a bunch of you have liked and subscribed already, so that's great. And thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a happy Halloween. I don't know if you celebrate it where you are in the world, but it's kind of a fun holiday here in the US. And I will see you guys, some of you hopefully, next Friday. Happy ZBrushing, and see you.